vapor from.
Yeah, exactly. What did he say? Okay, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order for January 8th. So we'll go ahead and start with the administrative discussion items. Does anyone have any corrections or amendments to the minutes stated from December the 18th? I have a couple that are grammatical that I'd like to submit. And then on the Durkee section, just add a comment that during our discussion, we had an overview of all the basins' functionality on site. That was in there. And then also on Russell Street, when we talked about the monitoring period for the new plantings and that we stated it would be a minimum of 3 years. And then my other corrections are just minute. Anna?
Yeah, I just had also pretty much grammatical and clarification things. The last one about Russell Street, also to note that the sign was within the wetland resource, close to the intersection of Russell and Route 119. And the approximate location was on the original set of plans submitted with the application. Is that true? I thought that was the case. That it had a little bit. It was kind of
I can't remember
discreet, but it was there.
I can't remember what they said in for the amended NOI plans. I'd have to look.
I think they said it was on the original set of plans, which is why it's still in the.
It was not in the original set. It was not in the original order condition plans.
Oh. Okay. It was on the something set of plans. If you could just say what set of plans it was in.
Yeah.
Originally.
Well, it was added when they came in for the amendment. So it was added to the amended.
Okay. So we'll change the wording to accommodate that. Any other changes? Okay. All right, so I'd like to submit my changes and Anna's changes.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a motion to accept the minutes?
I motion to accept the minutes as amended.
All those in favor?
Well, it's
Second. Oh. Second. Yeah, thought you were. Yep.
All right.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Let's go through administrative discussions. Durkee Farm, a new owner should be present. 6 Fraser. Come on up. We appreciate you coming in. If you'd like to have a seat and introduce yourself to the commission, that would be great.
My name is Vishnu Karnati, and I moved in July of 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So if you want to just show the commission where your
Lot 9, right?
house is?
Lot 9.
Yeah.
Where is the entrance?
It's just for you. Here's
The
Boston
entrance,
Way.
yeah, this is the one, yeah.
Fraser.
So you're right next to the detention basin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we come out on site quite a bit to watch that and to watch the functionality of that. So why we asked you to come in tonight, and some of the commissioners will share with you, is that where your house is built has a proximity to the wetlands and what that means. You guys want to kind of go through that with him?
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wetlands our line is delineated on with these flags. Point. And that's called a resource area under the Wetland Protection Act.
Okay.
And we're protecting within 100 feet of that wetland. And so your house is, or your lot is completely, mostly under the 100 foot.
Yep, mostly.
I guess this is the 100-foot line. This here.
Yep.
Okay.
And so this is what we call a buffer
Okay.
to the wetland. And so it's under our jurisdiction, so we monitor and protect any actions that occur in here that may impact
Okay.
this line.
So that consists of things like mowing. So you want to make sure that you're not going further than where you're supposed to be. Things if you ever wanted a shed or fencing, things like that, you'd always have to come back in for further approval through the commission.
Yeah. So I had a question for my builder. Recently he showed me the perimeters of the land, and I planted about 10 trees around the perimeter.
Okay.
But there was a little sign between the trees were in 2 rows, the 2 rows,
Yep.
5 trees in there, and maybe 2 feet, 3 feet later, and another row of 5 feet. But the plant, the little conservation land board, I guess,
Yep.
is in between the trees. So I asked him, he's supposed to be in the trees are supposed to be here. So he said as long as
So the trees are supposed to be on the upland side of that resource area. So when you plant, you want to make sure you're closer to the house versus closer to the wetlands. What type of trees did you plant?
I think those are white pines.
Okay. And how big of diameter were they, or are they?
They're
I
pretty
think, yeah, I think 5 feet to 6 feet.
Okay.
Wait, you planted?
No, I mean builder planted, so
Oh,
that
the
was a
builder.
part
Oh,
of
the
the purchase.
built, so it's already on the plan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, it's not on the plan, but he put them in.
right, okay.
but I'm not sure whether it's within the perimeter or, because there is a board between the 2
Mhm.
sets of trees.
Right. I think where they're going to be established, so they've already gone through, I think, one growing cycle, so to see how they mature. But if you have any additional plantings, or if you need to remove them,
I'm not planning it, no.
then we do ask you to come in.
Okay.
So no, we appreciate you coming in, and so we just want to make sure that everybody understands how important the resource area is, and to help with the water quality there as well.
Sure.
Any questions that you have for us?
Apart from that, I'm planning to hire the lawn moving company for
Mhm.
fertilizing, and
Okay.
so is there any restrictions to?
Ideally, you'd want to use
Usually-
something that's organic, and you want to make sure that the lawn clippings don't go into
Yeah,
the
that's-
resource area, so that would be kind of, when they cut it, they would take it away with them as well.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that is one of the continuing conditions at the bottom of the page there.
Yep.
Continuing, under continuing
Do
conditions.
you have a copy of the,
No, I don't.
of the order condition? You can take that.
Okay.
Bring it.
Great, thanks.
And that's
Yeah,
great
I'm
to
sorry.
keep. That was on his deed, right? Some of those?
It wouldn't be on the deed.
Is
Oh,
that?
yeah, well, I would. It's recorded at the registry of deeds,
Okay,
but you should have a copy of it
sure, yeah,
anyway.
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, the organic fertilizer usually is longer release, so it doesn't
Okay.
release all the nitrogen or.
Okay, so I should ask them
Mhm.
wherever possible it's
Yep.
organic, okay,
Yep, that would be great. And you don't have to apply it as often.
okay.
So, okay. Perfect. Well, we appreciate you coming in.
So the sign has to stay there.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay,
touching.
Yeah, yeah,
And
sorry.
if you could just fill out this form right there.
Just
signing-
one page?
Just one of them, yeah.
Just basically says that you came in. Yep, and you can do that. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Give that back to.
This one. And this.
Okay, next on the agenda, agricultural conservation priorities mapping. We're gonna hold on that?
Sure.
Okay. Next after that is a certificate of compliance with Air Liquide, which is 204-769 at 53 Air Road. Amy, it's my understanding that you've gone out and everything's fine and ready to
Yep,
finally close it?
I went out way before, at least a month ago, and told them they can take out the erosion controls. They did. I looked at it again. Everything's fine. So I think it's ready to go.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept the certificate of compliance?
A motion to accept the certificate of compliance for 204-769-53 Air Road, Air Liquide.
Okay, second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Full vote. Okay, next is Hartwell, request for certificate of compliance, 204-564, which is 85A. I believe they've not been in, so we're going to put a hold on that. We'll carry that over to January 22, or do you want
He
to?
hasn't bugged me recently, so I think I'll probably wait till there's more people here. I have not been out. Glenn Berger sent me, he did put up the signs, which would have included
Right.
this parcel and stuff, but,
Okay, so let's just carry that over to January 22nd.
yeah.
Next is the Hartwell Ave Conservation Restriction Area. As you know, we had a discussion previously in regards to encroachment going on in the CR area. And Amy is working on wording to go out to the landowners that have done either work or building structures within the enforcement area. So I've reviewed the language, have made some suggestions to that, and Ann is looking at that tonight as well. So with the commission's support, we'd like to ask to go ahead and send out some letters, basically asking them to come in within the next couple meetings and also come up with an action plan. So to talk about what they're going to do and go forward with that. So is everybody in favor with that?
And these letters are basically entirely related to the conservation restriction. I think at least one of them is probably buffer zone work also, so this may end up with an enforcement order, but given the time of year, I think that can all wait until we figure out what's gonna happen. If anyone cares, here's the report
Yep.
with all the damn photos and documents in it.
Yep. So it's, I mean, it's a good letter, and it states very succinctly what's gone on, and so there are 4 that we would, 1, 2, or, yeah, there are 4 that would go out. Okay. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, Amy, so you have support to send that. Okay, the next is the bylaw regulatory review. I think based where we've got a couple commissioners that aren't here tonight, we'll table that discussion for a little bit.
Yeah. And
Okay.
nothing's happened anyway, so.
Right.
Okay.
Everyone's been sick.
Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and go, it's time for the 7:45 continued public hearing, notice of intent, number 10 Fort Pond.
Can I get those letters back? Or were you gonna read those, Anna?
I was gonna read them.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yep,
Come
no,
on
that's
up.
good.
Evening.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Yes, William Hall with Stamsky and McNary for the record, and I'm sure you're very familiar with the project by now. So, at the last hearing, there were a few items to change on the plan, so we went ahead and made some changes. We had Dave Crossman go out and flag the extent of the vernal pool past the replication area.
Was that done prior to snowfall?
It was, yes. Yes, he did it early December, I want to say the 9th or the week after that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went and did that to make sure that our replication was not in the potential vernal pool. And then we also switched the box culvert to a open bottom. It's a arch culvert, so it's a metal arch, and there'll be about 3.5 feet that will be able to be undisturbed between the spans, because to do the open bottom you need to excavate for the footing, so there's some room in there. That's why we have a 6-foot span, but it's really about 3.5 feet that's undisturbed. And then the details for that changed as well, and that's been updated on the plan. And I believe those were the big items. I was hoping Dave would be here to talk about an Appendix B and documentation for the vernal pool, but
Okay.
it seems like he's not here right now, so.
Okay. Can you talk, I think we had a discussion based on contacting the town of Acton as well, so to see alternatives, as we talked about, but were you part of that discussion with the applicant?
Talking to Conservation Commission about that?
In Acton, to see if there is an alternative to this, what's proposed for your access.
Well, really the only alternative, so this is Fort Pond Road and this is Sarah Indian, would be to cross the bordering vegetated wetland. And it's my understanding that if we attempted to file for crossing this, that DEP would shoot that down and tell us that we'd have to cross in the least impactful area, which they would consider through that area, just because of the amount that we'd need to fill through the wetland.
Okay. So let's go back to the other side and talk a little bit about work in the vernal area for your replication or any of your work. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So within the potential vernal pool itself, we're avoiding any work within that. If this were a certified vernal pool, then the resource habitat area would extend up to the limit of the resource area. So the work within that is filling for the crossing, and then there's some work in the mitigation and restoration area on this side, but this would be completely out of it.
So, but just for the record, you just stated that potentially if it's certified, you would be working in the vernal pool area.
In the habitat area, correct, because For the vernal pool, it's 100 feet up to the extent of the resource area that you're in, if it is a certified vernal pool.
Okay. I don't know that we have precedence that that's been done before.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So wait, it's not in the vernal pool itself, it's just in
No,
the
that is
resource
the
area
vernal pool.
around.
No, that is the vernal.
That is the
yeah.
vernal pool.
It's part of it.
The
yeah.
vernal pool is the depression plus 100 feet, as long as it's still in a resource area. So that is
I
the
guess what I'm
definition of the vernal
saying-
pool.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is it's in the plus 100 feet part of the vernal pool.
That is the vernal pool.
Okay, but,
You're in it.
I don't know. So wait, you're replicating to 2 times the area that you're filling, is that right?
I believe so. I don't know that there's a requirement to do that, but
This is
I don't
under
have the
new
number
regs,
right on me
right?
right now.
This is not bordering
specific-
vegetated wetlands. So the 50-foot buffer, so that doesn't apply.
Yeah, so it wouldn't come up.
So is there a 1-to-1 requirement then for vernal pool?
The only thing the new regs added in was for ILSF is the wildlife habitat component in general. Because under the state regs, ILSF doesn't really consider wildlife habitat. So that certainly catches this by virtue of the vernal pool as well.
Well, I think you're in a predicament here where the commission has not had an applicant work within that area to the proximity to the vernal pool, so, okay.
And it's not really by choice that we're doing this either, because like I had said before, and I reiterated in the letter, he has reached out to the neighbor to attempt to go around. The neighbor on this side, this wetland, I'll see if I can, this wetland actually continues further up, and then we have the bordering vegetated wetland in the front as well. So it's what we saw as the least impactful option, especially considering that this would be about 4,000 square feet of bordering vegetated wetland that would have to be filled for that.
And did you say what the square footage is in the vernal pool habitat area of impact?
I don't have that number on me, but I believe it's 900 to 1,000 square feet. I want to say it's about 900.
And what's the work that has to be done down in that other area?
In this area. So this is compensatory storage for the isolated land subject to flooding that we would be filling in this area. So there's some storage here and then some additional storage here. So we'd still maintain the same storage within the isolated land subject to flooding.
I mean, it is an area subject to protection, which is in the wetland mitigation section. It says, so under our regs, wouldn't it be 3-to-1? Design shall provide a 3-to-1 area ratio of replacement in wetlands to wetland, but it's not considered a. So Amy, even though it's not an area subject to protect, it is an area subject to protection?
Yes.
That is being altered. So wouldn't, but it's not a BBW.
But the 50, yeah, so the 50-foot no disturb doesn't necessarily apply.
But the
'Cause that-
replication maybe,
The what?
the
replication would, yes,
mitigation
yeah.
would requirements, which we require 3-to-1 replacement. In section 5.2.
So, it sounds like you've referenced the 5.2. Is there any other discussion, Anna, that you'd like to bring forth for them, or questions that you have?
I was wondering if that's what their replacement plan does, is replace the 3-to-1.
I had thought that was for the wetlands when I was reading that, but I'm not sure. I'll have to reread that. I know it's not 3-to-1, it's closer to 2-to-1.
And what are you counting as replication area?
The areas that are being planted.
So even the stuff that's already ILSF?
The stuff that would be, I'd say, outside the wet flags, but not inside the ILSF? Or would you just want me to go from the extent of any resource area with it?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure, 'cause it seems, do you mind?
Yeah, no, feel free.
It seems that the yellow line, I'm right, that's the ILSF, that's the 192, basically, pretty much. So all this work is just taking down the elevation, so it's not really replication. And it's also in what was flagged as wetland anyway. So you're basically taking out wetland vegetation in the ILSF and putting back wetland vegetation. So I wasn't sure how that whether you're counting, how you're counting that. You know, this is the only piece of upland that's being converted, and this one, that whole.
Yep.
So I just wasn't sure how that was being counted.
Okay.
And your thoughts to that, your response to that?
I'll have to double check and see how we were counting it. Again, I don't have the numbers exactly on hand.
Okay. Commissioners have any other questions?
Well, I would need to clarify whether the 3-to-1
Right.
applies.
I think that you brought that to his attention, and he certainly noted on that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it does say that it says area subject to protection. The question is, the word wetland, though, is used in the 3-to-1 replacement requirement, so fuzzy language.
So let's come back to, prior to being here, in terms of the certification of this. Certainly on the record noting that you believe it is. Is it the intention to wait till spring to have it formally certified?
I know that the applicant would prefer to get an order of conditions before it was certified, because he wants to just not have this hanging over his head all winter long. But we would be open to having it certified in the spring.
Okay. So the commission will take that under advisement. It seems like we'll, with your request, based on more information that needs to be provided, to continue to January 22nd. Does that work?
Yep.
Oh, there was one other thing you were going to do, and that is fix the notation of the gravel or the
Yes,
stone.
and we got rid of that.
And you did that. It
and
looks
we
like
have
it
detail.
continues, though.
It comes up to the edge of the culvert, so it would be on either side of it, but not over it.
Okay.
Is that culvert constructible in that alignment? You don't have to go wider for temporary impacts, but in the footings, it can all stay within?
It should be able to, yes, because it's a pretty shallow footing that they use for that, so.
Okay, so should be means yes.
Yes, it's only, I have the detail here. I believe it's only 1 4 foot deep or so. Yeah, 1 4 inch deep footing, so there's no reason why there should be any additional impacts beyond that.
Okay. Any questions? So we'll look forward to your additional data for January 22nd.
Okay, so that would just be looking into the restoration area we're providing and seeing if we need 3-to-1 mitigation or not.
Correct.
Okay.
And do you understand my concern?
Yes, I do.
That part of the ILSF is being
Yep.
recreated in the ILSF, and it's never clear to me that if you just make the bathtub deeper, if that's really mitigation,
Yep.
and whether you have to move all that out further into the upland.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Have a
Okay.
good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next,
Nice drive day.
the next hearing that was on for 8 o'clock has postponed, so we have an opening for 15 minutes. I would like to
I think
just...
we're on time.
Yeah. No, it's good. So I would like to discuss at the bottom, there was a motion, or not a motion, acknowledgement for executive session, which I don't believe we need to go into at 8:35, so I'd just like to have a discussion on that. Amy, if there's any updates, if we'll be needing
I put that
that
on
or
there
not.
basically as a placeholder. The only thing I
Okay.
have is some date updates.
Okay.
So if you want to talk anything else, we can go in executive, otherwise we
Okay,
can
so
just.
for tonight's discussion, we'll go ahead and withdraw that off we won't need to be doing that. Is there anything, as we jump back to administrative discussions that we've postponed that we want to do an update for? Amy, do you have a moment you want to do an update on the 495 fuel spill as well? I
Yes.
think all the commissioners are certainly have been made aware of it. Some have been out on site. If there's anything that's come in the last week that we need to know
So I went
about.
out there Wednesday,
You know,
before the snow, just so I could see what's going on out there. And they've been adding absorbents like crazy. There's some pictures in there. There is still a sheen there, and I talked to the licensed site professional who's overseeing the work, and he said the sheen is to be expected. It does not appear that it's gotten past the emergency access road culvert off the end of Marriott. The gates down at Constitution Avenue are closed,
Yeah.
and it's not causing flooding, which I don't understand. So we're just gonna keep an eye on it to keep the gates closed as long as we can.
So, but they have someone that's out there still daily monitoring and,
Well, not daily, so it was out there this morning, I believe, and said it's under snow. And at this point, they're gonna probably go back out on Monday and
Okay.
see if conditions have changed with the warmth and the rain and
right.
see
Do
what's
we have any worry with the thaw and then the rain of it traveling?
It depends how good that gate is. It might travel beyond the emergency access road and into basically that huge Phragmites stand.
How well do the booms work in frozen conditions?
Well,
Have they
the
really-
booms in front of the gate are sitting on top of the ice.
Yeah,
So, if the water's going under the ice,
Right.
it's not, but, what can they do?
right.
I did not see any kind of sheen on the other side of the gates, but it was also frozen, so if there's anything under there, it would have been under the ice,
Hmm.
again.
At least it makes oil sluggish when it's this cold too.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of heavy stuff
Yeah.
from some of
And-
the earlier pictures.
It was,
Sam Park's been
number 2.
notified, obviously.
Sam knows, Stefan knows, well, Stefan knows,
Yeah.
I assume Sam knows. I asked Stefan if they were gonna have a 21E LSP look over their shoulders, and he said, nah.
Okay,
Actually, and I believe, I never went back and checked this, he said, that's the hotel property anyway.
right, and so,
I thought
but...
they had-
But it's
Li-
my
li-
wetlands!
Littleton Water's being CC'd on everything?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm assuming Corey's been out there?
and they said they didn't have any immediate concerns, and they'll see if stuff starts getting past the gates. Now, I don't know if you wanted to do anything, it almost sounds like it's entirely up to you if you want to do something. You can do an emergency certification, which is maybe just at least get some paperwork out on this, otherwise DEP's been tracking it. And I set this up if you wanted to sign it, or I could just sign it myself too, just that they might do, or they have done, soil excavation in the buffer zone up on the 495 right-of-way, pumping of water from the wetlands and the intermittent tributary to Beaver Brook, installation and maintenance of absorbents and sampling.
With the excavation that's been coming out, we'll have to address how that's going to, looking later, because we don't want to have a large depression that then is just going to hold everything right there.
Yeah, so I'm not
So
sure
we'll have
what,
to-
if they backfilled it. It looks like they have, but I couldn't get across the ditch to actually go up on
Right.
495 right away to look at it. I did say that if they think they need to excavate in a wetland or waterway, they're gonna have to come back at that point, and they might not know that until the spring.
When you're referring to they, who was the one that did the excavation?
I'm not sure who actually did the excavation, but at that point, it's being overseen by DEP, and RCN is the LSP of record for Fraticelli
Okay.
oil.
I think with Are you feeling comfortable with the amount of notifications that you're receiving through email or?
He's been very responsive. He's been answering my emails and calls and stuff, so so
Okay.
far so good.
Have they changed out the booms, or are they just
Yes.
not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, because when I went out there Wednesday morning, they had already come and gone, so you could tell it was all fresh stuff out there. You can see it in the pictures, it's pretty, some of it's
Looks
starting to
pretty
get,
white still.
yeah.
Well, if you, I guess I would ask that if you have an opportunity to go out the latter part of this week when it does start to hopefully thaw a little bit, and if we do get any precipitation,
Yeah.
but I would ask the commissioners to make sure that if at any time you feel like it's starting to move, that we should do an enforcement immediately.
Yeah, other than the snow, there's been so many people trampling through there, it's actually pretty easy to walk from the Marriott rear parking lot up to 495. They've cut the fence and, you know, they've been
Yeah.
tramping all over the place.
Okay, I'm gonna give you that.
Okay.
Back to
If the
them.
snow's on, I can't get better.
Right.
So, no emergency certification at this point.
I think we'll know in the next couple of days
Yeah.
what happens, as long as they're diligent to be out there during the thaw,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay. Do we have more new owners at Durkee coming in for the next meeting, or?
No, I haven't heard from anybody there or at the Fields place.
Okay.
Right now, the new owners of Fields are all contractors.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to tell us what the the conservation priorities mapping is?
It's something SVT sent over for review. And it's phase 2 of their conservation priorities mapping project. And they just wanted to know if we had any comments on it. And every time I look at it, I get a headache. Well, maybe somebody else wants to look at this.
That's very colorful.
It's very
Have a
colorful, yeah,
legend?
so,
What's the legend?
you know, high quality habitat, very high quality habitat, agricultural priority land, and protected open space.
Well, how much is?
I assume this is just based on GIS. I mean, it's not very specific. Sorry, I don't
Is
know
it
if
current?
You or Jim, I don't know. Like I said, I
Are
have
those
not
both
looked
the
at
same,
them.
or are they two different maps?
I think it's 2 prints of the same thing.
Looks like here's this, so it looks like the focused area of this.
Yeah, the first time I printed it, I didn't get the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
I think that was what.
So this one is really the one to look at, but it's teeny.
Right.
But, high quality. So are there areas that I guess it would be helpful in this map to focus on areas that have not yet been protected that should be focused on, you know, that need our attention. That's what I would, because if this includes everything, it's not very useful. If it includes just the ones that,
I'm not,
Well, it is, I mean, it does show you the
Sure.
agricultural, the priority versus open space, and
but yeah, it doesn't show what may already have an APR
Right.
on it.
Right.
right,
it's like you need another overlay on it.
yeah.
Okay.
But maybe at least as a first blush, it'll tell you there's some important
It might
farmland or
be, might
potential
be
farmland.
easier to access the data is to have it by street or by parcel, so that we might know it a little bit easier versus looking at that very
Well, there
colorful
was
map.
some text that went with it,
Okay.
I thought. Was that attached to it, her cover letter?
That's probably in there.
Okay.
All right, we'll take a peek at that. Anybody have any other updates or anything for discussion? Nope. No CPC updates?
No CPC updates. I know. I will start looking into our application for the parking lot for Williams at some point. We probably won't file anything for this Springtown meeting. I'm thinking it's probably going to be for the fall, just
Okay.
because the deadline for applications.
I actually want to check on that, because that potential parking lot would be on the 5-acre parcel, right?
Yeah.
Which was not CPC funded?
No.
So can you spend CPC money on it?
Yeah, because you're creating recreation.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a property that's already been
Yeah.
CPA.
Okay.
Well, I just want to note that it does say that we're supposed to note if there are any parcels we believe should be added or removed from the map, and
It's hard to say.
then we're supposed to mark it with edits and send it back to them.
They want that marked up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I put that right in the bottom of this file.
That's a lot of work on that one. Okay. All right, so are they out in the hall?
I think
for the
Brian's out there.
8:15, because we can
I'll check.
start some pre-discussion.
Did you want to keep one?
Did you mean turkey or did you
Sure.
mean the hearing?
Good one. Or the,
And jerky, which is the 8:15.
Oh, jerky, okay. Oh, you guys want to come on in? Sorry.
Well, we're still early, but yeah,
Okay.
you can come on up.
Well, we can start our discussion now. It's not a public hearing.
Exactly.
Okay. For the record, Brian Goodworth, Hancock Associates, representing Durkee Farm Builders. I guess Dave is not here this evening. We issued, nope, not that one, sorry. That's that right there. We issued just kind of an updated little sketch based on the site walk that we had, I believe it was December 21st.
I have one.
You have one, okay. And essentially, it outlines the changes that we had discussed in the field, where we introduced a level spreader that's kind of recreating that
I think when
historic.
they're looking at this, to let them know what they're looking at, because where this doesn't actually say, like, this is lot 11,
Okay.
so if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Acclimate, I kind of figured it out, but
So if you look at the big plan, essentially the pipe is
just
right.
this one.
Yep, which is that one right there, and the pipe is located right in this area right here on lot 11. And that is what we're looking at on the 11 by 17. So this is wetland A, lot 11, lot 10, open space E, lot 7, just kind of in the corner here, and this is Fraser Street.
So
the
my
pipe
question is, where's lot 7 angle?
is this dark line right here,
Okay,
and that gray box is a conservation marker.
okay. So when this is submitted, it would be good to have the lots.
Yeah,
like
we
a
can
li-
certainly-
Like a little bit more
yeah, we put-
detail on this. So what we would like to have is possibly just a little bit more on this that would have, because you have the house on 11, to kind of note where the open space is versus lot line.
Sure.
Oh, I see.
Yep, so it's a.
There's the level spreader, okay.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So the only add from the big plan to the little plan is really the level spreader itself, and just getting a little bit more detail on that. The pipe remained the same, the inverts remained the same, the locations remained the same. Everything was the same, with the exception of the level spreader being installed at the outlet.
So we talked a lot when we were on site that we knew we wanted to be at 262.5 for this coming out. I thought that this was going to perhaps, I know you only have a foot to play with, but I thought it was going to daylight a little bit more. My only question, and I preface it with a little bit of a concern, is that I really want to make sure that this pipe and the start of the outfall really stays on lot 11 and not on the open, and not right at the doorstep of the open space. And I'd like to talk a little bit about access through an easement to whomever's going to maintain it, and that if something were to go wrong with this, that we're then not instantly in the open space.
So if you take a look at lot 11 is the entirety of this. Open space is further away. The conservation markers are 30 feet off the wetland line, and we're about 5 feet beyond that, so we're about 35.
Which is not shown on this,
What is not shown?
where your open space line is.
Correct, because it's out further beyond the viewport. So when I expand the viewport on the actual plan, I can certainly
posts are
indicate that.
The posts are shown.
Are
which
you at the up
30
end or
foot
the
off.
down end?
We're at the downward.
Yeah, those are the posts, right? The square
Yeah, but those are
triangle?
those are on lots. That's not open space itself. That's just limit of yard area, essentially. So
I thought
that's
those
still
were-
lot 11. So if you look right here, this is where it extends, right in here, and the pipe is right in this area. So all of that is still on lot 11. However, this is the wetland line right there, and we're about 35 feet away from it. So that is,
Highlighter.
I don't have one, unfortunately.
Let's just take a minute. I think because of this detail on this, it would be good to be able to see open space,
Mhm.
where that is. I think it's
Mm.
worth. Plus
So
we
this
have,
is the,
That's the wetland line and the silt fence line. And then back here is where the actual outlet is. And then
that is right here.
exactly. And then the level spreader runs parallel with this contour.
So the level spreader's gonna go that way.
Exactly.
All right, so let's,
And do you have to excavate it all for the level
No, so
spreader?
the intention is we're gonna take a 6-inch pipe. It's basically a 12-inch RCP under the road. We're gonna put a 12 by 6-inch reducing T on it, and then run it basically just along the ground. So we're gonna place the 6-inch pipe on existing grade and then mound stone over the top of it. So we're not gonna be excavating. It's not an infiltration trench or anything like that. It's really just diffusing the velocity of the flow and allowing it to sheet flow in a longer area.
so how far is the mound portion of the pipe?
I'm not sure I follow. It's 12 inches of crushed stone over the top of the 6-inch pipe. And the actual pipe itself is below grade. So it just daylights right here at the end. And then you
It's
go
gonna be very
right into
easily
a T.
maintained.
Exactly. I mean, that's the intent of not excavating and putting it in the
Right,
ground.
Just placed.
Mhm.
How about this pipe itself? This is fairly small diameter.
It's
a
12-inch
long-
RCP.
Long distance. So how likely is it gonna be clogged?
It's the same as a catch basin pipe. So it's the same as all the other drainage in the road.
Do you want to talk to the commission? Because we talked a little bit about the opportunity of putting in a weir, and I know that you've had discussion with Amy that that is not a viable option. So if you want to just kind of go through the dynamics of that.
Yep, so if we look at the inlet, we had talked about batter boards and things of that nature to allow us to potentially be able to change the elevation of standing water if anything happens in that area. Well, we set the pipe at 262.5, which is 6 inches below the existing grade. And we essentially just created a little bit of a dished area where the rim, if you will, or the weir of the dish is at 263, which is existing grade, and that is the historic elevation of the relief area. So in order to actually take water out of open space E at an elevation lower than 263, we're going to have to excavate, essentially, the open space. So the pipe will be there. The pipe will never have to be reinstalled if it turns out that we want to allow more water, modify it in some way, but the actual grading around the inlet pipe itself will have to change. So it's not like we could just put a batter board, pull the batter board out, and allow more water into the pipe. The land physically would have to be lowered to make that happen. So in terms of future-proofing it, the pipe's there, the elevation's there, and then it's just a matter of revisiting the design of the inlet should something like that need to happen. But again, we're always of the opinion that 263 is the number. That's the historic elevation that the relief was provided, and that's what we're trying to create with this plan.
So sorry if I missed it, but were we just talking about a weir type structure? I thought
Originally, we did,
I thought we
before,
were-
at the previous hearing,
Yeah,
we asked them to look at alternatives because we felt as though, with the farm pond being such an unknown, that we wanted to have the ability to make sure that, A, we weren't potentially starving and letting everything go out, not knowing all the dynamics of the
Right.
water there.
but
So
we
that's something that-
decided against a weir?
Well, it's not physically,
Yeah, it's just,
it's not capable.
Oh.
Right.
We're based on the elevations.
so what
Because I
we're-
thought we wanted to be flexible just in case we're wrong.
and that's why the
Well, and
pipe
that's
was
why this
set.
is gonna remain open for a long time to make sure, because if it doesn't work, then we'll go back and it'll have to be worked on
Yeah.
again to try and figure out the right elevations. I mean, I don't,
Okay.
so
It's
I,
not clear why a weir, if this is the service, why a weir can't be, dig out more areas, you have room for a.
Well, we would, but we'd be going into open space E. So we'd literally be
Yeah.
reworking that entire area so that we could
why wouldn't you just
collect
go on
water.
to 11?
7.
No,
I mean,
7, because we're going up in elevation. So the lowest, the kind of the flat area is where the pipe is being proposed, is where it always was. So that is the lowest area in open space E, with the exception of the farm pond proper. So yeah, the pipe's being set at a lower elevation, so we don't have to rip it out. It would just be a reworking of the inlet should anything happen down the road.
You know, we had looked at that concrete structure that's there to see if you can use that, and there's just so many unknowns
Right.
in that, and if it would even be viable. And
Right, right, I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
I feel as though you've got commission members that are not here tonight that have been very active part of this process and have been out on site. I feel as though there's some other notes that need to be added on to this. As a commission member tonight, I personally would want input from the other commissioners, but I feel as though it's definitely in the right direction.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not going to get built, you know, in the next couple of weeks.
Exactly. So we do have a little bit of time
So,
on this.
We meet again on the 22nd. What I would ask for the 22nd is just to blow it up a little bit more and expand your detail. So now we're doing good. To expand the detail a little bit and to really just note the open space, put your lots on here, assurances that the pipe is really going to maintain on lot. Yeah. Like maybe just clean it up a little bit.
No, that's not a problem.
Yep. So.
You screw up?
No.
So,
No, believe me, that's the only thing they're commenting on.
So, day prior to coming in, we just had discussions about really making sure that everything that happens here is truly on lot 11 and no implications to open space. And so we just want to make sure that the lines are a little clearer. So like when you first look at this, you wouldn't know that that's lot 11. You wouldn't know that this is 7. So to really have more detail on this, pull it out a little bit more so that we can see, where you can see that the house is here, but so as people can look at this, we can see the dynamics of what we're looking to do. We know that our numbers are at 262.5. We already talked about the spreader and easement onto 11, so for maintenance. Those were, I think, the couple things that we talked about.
Now, it looks like the opening here is fully open, there's no, like, screen or anything
Nope.
on the opening there. Would that be something that would be advisable to put a screen, so you don't get build up within the pipe, or?
I mean, I wouldn't put a screen. What we would typically do on a pipe is put rebar.
That big.
Yeah, or trash rack.
Yeah.
It's more for making sure people don't try to crawl in the pipe than it is to keep
Wildlife.
stuff out, like sediment. But yes, we can certainly add a trash rack.
If it turned out that we decided 262.5 is too low, is there a way of basically blocking the pipe?
Well, again, the weir is at 263, so 263 is the elevation. The pipe itself is lower. So it has to go...
It has to come,
Exactly, exactly.
Any other questions? Okay. So I think as we discussed to kind of tidy this up and bring it in for the 22nd, I think just to get the input from the other commissioners, but I feel as though it's definitely in the right direction.
Okay. And the second topic that we had discussed on the site walk was with respect to the fence on lot 30.
Yep.
We are seeking...
So do you have a plan for that? You brought one copy?
I issued them last time. Sorry.
So we just, for those that weren't out on site, do you want to just do a little review of what we talked about on site? And it looked as though it was going to follow the adjacent lot
Right.
and that retaining wall. So by moving it back, I haven't seen that. So by moving it back, it kind of fell in line, not just visually, but also from a drainage flow.
Yeah, because it was pretty
So.
steep there. Yeah. And you also, are you in line, it doesn't really pictured here, but we were seeing that it would look nice if it was in line with that stone wall that was
Right.
over here.
Yeah, so that was the intent, the stone wall at the other foundations basically kind of,
It is.
yeah, parallel with it.
Basically, kind of, or yes?
Yes. So we're talking that.
I didn't look at it. Is that noted on what lot that is
Yeah.
too?
And
as
I
well?
mean, that's where,
Yeah.
generally speaking, it looks,
It's not, let me, or,
Lot 29?
it's lot
30.
so this is lot 30, and the
Oh.
wall was on lot 7.
No, about 7.
Yeah,
it's in the retaining walls.
coming outside the 50 does, I think this wall kind of runs a little like this. I think you're going to be in the same, you're going to be in the same plane, if you will.
Like right
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you shot a rock, a bullet through this, would you run right down the line of the wall, but it's darn close to it.
Okay, so I think what we're
Yeah.
looking at, so we want to make sure that for rains and things like that, that we're not going to get any pockets, that everything's just going to keep flowing, because that fence is going to go right down. We talked about leaving it up, but we felt as though it would be safer to put it all the way down. We just want to make sure that we're not going to scour or anything kind of where the two lots meet.
Well, there'll be separation from the wall and the
Yeah.
fence in the back.
Yep.
Yeah, there's separation in here.
Okay.
The wall's probably back here.
Yeah.
So there's definitely
Okay.
this topography change there, which is really sort of our swale program to get everything down to basin 4 through the
Okay.
grass.
Okay.
So yes, in looking at this, we're gonna meet our goals.
It's fairly
with that,
close, yeah, okay. Amendment to that, Amy, or how procedurally would you like to go with the addition of the fence?
Someone want to move to accept it as a minor modification?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I apologize, I forgot the hearing was 8:15.
Was, it's 8:25. We were on time. You were late.
My watch is 8:20, that's fine.
Brian, I don't think or maybe I didn't just miss it, I don't think I have that,
8:20.
Which one?
the lot 30 phase plan.
I can get you a clean copy?
Yeah, because all
But
I have is
can
the
I
old
take
one.
2 minutes
Yeah, and
to
I'll
see
send
what
you
the
PDF
direction is?
tomorrow.
No, I think we're good.
Your
We're-
favor,
yeah.
because you just want the plan cleaned up.
Exactly, and we want to make sure that this is all going to occur on 11. We're not going
Yeah.
to go in
That-
terms of
fair
those for maintenance, that we want to make sure easement, we want to have language on that. We just want more detail, because to look at this, there was no lots, there's,
I completely
Yeah.
agree. Can I ask that your agent share that with Shelley tomorrow? Because I'm trying to get a sign off on lot 7 septic. They don't have the right to hold a septic contingent on what happens with their pipe, but they're currently doing it. And I just don't want to get in a wrestling match with them and call them out on it.
well, no, they were following our direction of that we wanted to make sure that we had a path to relief of water.
Correct. I'm working with them on that.
So,
We met
yeah,
all
so
that-
I feel as though, yes, to talk to her,
The concept is
but
there, the final
but they were
details are set,
definitely-
and I think that's,
we run the risk, though, of also of this, if this pipe doesn't get installed before, I would say, spring or something, we run the risk of additional flooding and coming back onto 7. So I agree and understand why they're hesitant.
Even with the flooding to the level that we had last year, we don't jeopardize that system.
Right, we're still above, greater than 5 feet from that standing water elevation to the
We're
bottom
happy
of
to
the
share
system.
that with, file with you next meeting, just for your own edification.
Okay.
But we don't
Because
violate
when you look at that from a visual perspective,
Correct.
you would think
Aesthetically,
that you would think that there could be the possibility of undermining.
that. We agree.
So, but no, I feel as though it was within their jurisdiction to do so.
And we're working with them, I just wanted to close on that.
Okay. So going forward, while we've broached that subject, what do you think, and we recognize, because you've got to cut the road, will this be done before spring?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, spring being when?
Well, I think we're thinking of spring rains and thaws
I think this is a
and-
March project for us,
Okay.
March.
Okay.
Once we get a little bit of thaw.
Do you have to cut right through the
Right.
road, or you're
Yep.
gonna do
Yep.
sideways drilling?
I don't think it's a sideways drilling project, I think it's a cut, because all the utilities are in. I think it's just it'd be cleaner if we could see in there, I mean, they may want to drill it, but I'm guessing this is a cut for us.
oh, no, sure, you might need, if you need new erosion controls for these 2 ends, I should have those on there too.
I mean, they do fall within existing
You might already have them up,
silt
but yeah,
but we can certainly spruce
Yeah,
them
we're
up in
double
that
layered
area.
down here, but
Yeah.
we can, yeah, we'll.
just, yeah, double
We'll
check
doll
whether
it
you
up, 'cause it's
addition
not that big of an area.
Yep.
Well, because this can be built even before that gets cut.
Yeah.
Work backwards. Yep,
Yeah.
that's true. So,
Yeah, I don't think frost went too crazy on us with the snow cover, so, I mean, I know it was cold, but the snow cover helps a lot,
okay.
so.
So no need to carry, so we're gonna carry just this one on to the 22nd, and then nothing else carries on to the 22nd, with the exception of the pipe, correct? For
Correct.
Durkee? Okay. But we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologize for being tardy.
It's okay.
Get my watch recalibrated.
We
Because
just
one
like to
time
be
we're
on
actually
time
on
on
time.
occasion.
Yes, you will. Happy for everyone.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, so 8:25, continued public hearing, notice of intent, 119 Russell Street, redevelopment of existing commercial property in buffer zone. We are here to issue the order of conditions. Are they here? I
They
thought I
are.
saw them.
I assume Brian's gathering them up.
So Amy and I have worked quite a bit on what I think is our last order of conditions for them, so.
Okay.
If anybody wanted copies, I got copies here.
Good evening, welcome. So we'd like to go ahead and open your continued public hearing. I believe
Actually,
that,
it's closed.
well, we haven't,
Actually, no, yeah,
we
you're right, you're
haven't
right.
given them this yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone has colds, except for me, so.
It's been two right now.
Yeah. Okay, so Amy, let's bring up to date. So they have been furnished with what you and I drafted as their special order conditions, and there was only one possible change, and that was on the last page, and that has to do with mowing, keeping the mower at 2 or 3 inches up.
It's not on there, so you
Yeah,
will
we're
see
just
it.
gonna-
So stop reading it.
No, not yet. It's gonna be added to last page, P6. It's just more for, so they don't scalp everything, so they keep the deck mower up. Other than that, I feel as though there's a lot to digest in here, and that it's, I think, clear and succinct for the scope of the project. Did you had an opportunity to review any concerns?
We did, we reviewed it with our clients, and we're very comfortable.
So can I have a motion to issue this?
I'll motion to issue the order of conditions for 119 Russell Street, R 1820, Mass DEP number 204862.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Any extra copies?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll take one if you have one. Mine's all in pieces and written all over it.
Who wants it? Do you want me to mail it to?
No, the final.
When I get it signed and all that stuff?
You can mail it to me,
Mail it to you? Okay.
please. Well, thank you very much for all your work and site visits and
Thank you.
look
Get it all
forward to
done in
getting it
time
done.
just before snow. No, we still have to talk about
Yeah, we
those.
still
Yeah,
have
we
the
still have to do the,
and
for the sign. So.
Yeah, so.
Let's just sign this first.
Okay.
Yep.
You have a
Okay.
cold too?
Getting over with.
Okay, so, so there is.
You're the only healthy person here.
No, I don't have
Oh,
one.
that's right.
You don't have to read it.
Okay, so, the next is the request for an extension and amended order of condition, Russell Street, 204-746. So this is, do you guys want to talk about this? This was in reference to the sign, which I think we're
Yeah, so
waiting on that.
The way that we had left the last meeting was with respect to signage at Russell and Great Road. And essentially, what we were trying or hoping to do was have a comprehensive sign package and kind of revisit the footing and how it was going to be put together. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So as of right now, we're not going to include the signage as a part of the modification, but would like to reserve the right to present that at a later date for potentially a minor modification when we have all those
We
construction
need
level
to do some
details.
engineering and
Yeah.
take another look at that area and see what we can do to avoid impacts. And
We agree with you on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, we couldn't do that in
No, we couldn't do that.
especially with all that white stuff in the way.
Yeah, well, in the wetlands, it's underneath.
Yep.
Okay, as a course of action, what is our columns?
You can vote to approve the extension permit for order conditions for 3 years. Wait a minute.
That's a long time.
2 years.
No, sorry. Well, whatever you want to. It expired January 5th, 2015, but this
We don't need
process has been going on before then, so I don't
Exactly,
think that's
so,
an
I
issue,
don't-
so.
So
I
what
think
are?
I can't remember. Did you ask for 3 years? I can't remember what you asked for. But you
I
do
think
anything you
we've
want.
already worked on this before. We want to make sure that we're not going all the way out on some of these. So what are the commissions? You have options of 1, 2, 3?
So it's just the sign, right?
No, it's the entire.
No, it's the
No,
entire
we-
site, and so we have to remember, it's
We
already
eliminated
been,
a
it's already been
building.
left at
We
one
actually
point,
reduced
so
the
we want to make
development.
sure that the building's maintained, that the site is still maintained. We had some lapse of that originally, prior owner, so we want to make sure that we're keeping a close eye on it.
That building's getting taken out,
No, originally it was approved for 2 buildings, a bank and 5,000 square feet
Oh,
of
okay.
retail. We've eliminated the 5,000
Got
square
it,
feet
alright.
of retail.
But, I mean, the only thing that might change is the sign, right?
Correct.
So it might be amended. So, I mean,
So that'd be a separate process.
Let's
so
see.
it would have to be
Sure.
done within the extension period.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's kind of a small thing to complete.
Well, it's still, they could still come in and amend other things as well by leaving it open, so.
That's true. Do you think you'll need more than a year for the sign?
Yeah, well, not for this.
For construction.
For the construction, yes.
Okay. I mean, we could do 2 years.
Okay. So do we have a motion for 2 years? Do we have someone to second that?
I'll second.
Excuse me?
2 years from today, to get designed, constructed, finished, branch.
Yeah.
And so if they push the office first, they don't get that started.
Doesn't matter. So what we have a motion for a second and, for 2 years, and you have it seconded.
Who moved it?
Moved, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So you granted 2 years.
If-
Okay.
Well, obviously, my clients are just concerned they don't want to run out of time, but obviously, if a year and a half from now, we're well into construction, but it's not going to be completed in 6 months,
Yeah.
we could come in and ask for an extension just to
Absolutely,
finish.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Paperwork.
Yep.
Here's a signature for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, then I gotta amend the order.
Amendment.
Yep. Okay, give a motion for an amendment.
So moved.
Seconded?
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No,
Thank
thank
you.
you
Good
for your
luck with
time and
construction.
effort. Thank
And
you.
Doug, you want
We'll
all
be in
this?
touch. Yes, please. Thank you.
Certified mail, or is someone gonna pick it up?
We can pick it up if you want to give it to
I'll have it
us.
ready tomorrow, so I'll let you know when it's ready.
Okay, great.
And then you can get it.
We'll send someone over.
All right.
Easier. Thanks again.
All right.
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good luck.
We're almost rid of Brian.
Okay.
Poor guy.
Oh, he's with me.
Is that where you borrowed
Every
his pen?
night.
Yes.
Okay, if there are no, oh, yep.
Well, let me tell you what's going on with 6 Cottage Way. And then you
wait.
can tell me if there's anything worth going into. Yes? No?
Okay.
Maybe sign this.
I think we already said that we didn't need to because there wasn't anything.
All right.
Oh, do we have an established, like, pre-conference
The
thing?
the pre-hearing
No.
statement, this is all DEP, none of this is under the bylaw stuff hasn't hit the road yet. The pre-hearing statement is due Tuesday, January 23rd. And she can't start drafting it until we receive the McDonald's pre-hearing statement, which is due January 16th. So she's gonna shoot to have the draft to me by Thursday, the 18th, for distribution to you guys in advance of the January 22nd
Okay.
meeting.
So that's good. So that's just a timing update, so.
Yeah, the pre-screening conference is now scheduled for 10 a.m. on January 26th.
Oh,
Here, do you want a copy of this? Anna?
I'll go push back.
In case-
Yeah.
Okay. So as
January
we had discussed
26th.
before, Anna may, or if the opportunity arises, might try and attend that hearing, because her office is very close by.
Yeah, I have to sign that that disclosure agreement thing.
Okay.
I already filled one out
Mhm.
because I work at DP already and I needed to disclose that
Right.
so I don't know if I need to do anything additional, but I will find out.
Yeah, I would just check with
Yeah,
your guys at your end.
yeah.
Oh, and MACC, I don't know if anybody wants the annual conference is coming up, and
March.
that's pretty good, doesn't say when. Whenever.
Okay.
Does anybody want to see this, or you probably get the emails
Yeah, we get the emails.
with what they've got on it?
Okay.
You got the information, you need the date.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Anything else? Okay, officially would like to adjourn the hearing at 8:39. Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Earliest.
Click.
Yeah, super early tonight.
Yeah.